Welcome back for another update on my witchcraft book. So I am nearing the very end of my book. So my slated estimated publication time is somewhere around August to September. I'm hoping August, but depending on how editing and stuff goes, it might leak into September. But right now, my goal for being an author is publishing like 3 to 4 times a year. So for me, that's like, it's like kind of coming up, but like also not. Because like right now I'm also in the stages of getting my 3rd book getting published soon as well. That one's slated for sometime in June. I don't have like pre-release dates because like Amazon doesn't do that unless you do an ebook, and like I'm not going to pre-release one versus the other. That just seems kind of weird. And you can't pick a date in the future to hit publish. So like when it goes live, it goes live. It decides its date at that point. That's really fun. I've heard, I think it was Barnes & Noble, they do theirs where you can pick like pre-orders. So I might try that with them. I do plan after this book to post on both sites so you have options of where to buy, now that Barnes & Noble does have a self-publish option. But anyways, moral of the story, writing this book. So I'm gonna double check, but I think I only have one more part left. This is why we use outlines because okay, so I have 2 parts and then the conclusion left. So I currently have, if I include the conclusion as a part, it's 11, but like, really it's 2. So I have part 9 left, which is Death Ongoing. And that is going to be talking about like visiting graves and honoring your ancestors at Samhain. And then part 10, I actually was going to initially have that in part 9, and then I decided it needed its own thing, and that's the part that I'm kind of the most scared to jump into, that I think is going to bump my final, like, oh my god, I finished this draft into June, because it's gonna take a lot of time. This book has taken the longest to write ever. Like, it's so much to write. So this book, every chapter, I swear, takes hours upon hours. You have researching to do, especially like in the moment, and it's not easy to research stuff. It's one of those where you're like, you vaguely remember hearing it somewhere, but where that somewhere is, you don't know. So like, I have to go find, if I can, items of like information, and sometimes you're like, I don't know. Like for example, I'm pretty sure that Ask a Mortician, Caitlin Doty, has talked about certain essential oils you use when like dealing with the body at home. And like if you do like a green burial, I don't remember what they are. And like when you try and Google that, you can't find it. So stuff like that, like I've got plenty of things that take forever to search, but now I'm getting into the witchery researchings because part 10 is all about death deities. And I've picked like 5 major pantheons that I think the majority of witches are gonna use. So like obviously starting off strong with Wicca, because like most of the time you're gonna stumble across Wicca. So like death deities in a Wiccan context, then Greek, Norse, Celtic, which for Celtic I'm kind of like lumping because like convenience wise, because like there's so much overlap and it's not one that I know terribly well, and it kind of is included sometimes and kind of is excluded, so like we're just gonna roll with it and hope that's a good title. We'll find out when I get there. But like I know that like sometimes Irish counts into Celtic and like Welsh counts, but then sometimes Celtic is like its own thing, and then you also have like the Anglo-Saxons, so like I don't know. That's a future me problem. But I'm thinking, you know, like the Morrigan is obviously gonna be in that one. Like whatever, all of the other ones. Like I think Caradwin might be, maybe. But you could also argue, like I know I always mispronounce his name, but like Dagda. But like he has a club that literally like kills you and brings you back to life. So like, could he be one? Like there's plenty to look into, and then there's also like, there's just like little things that I feel like I need to include into there, and like some context of like maybe like afterlife theories from the different pantheons, especially in like a modern context. I'm not super big on Reconstructionism. We're looking in the now, because we live in the now, we don't live in the past. And then the last one is, of course, Egyptian, because, like, we've all come across Egyptian gods at some point. So, like, they're the last ones that are like, yep, we got a lot on the, like, the dead and Egyptians is, like, everyone, that's the first one that comes to mind, because, like, pyramids, the Book of the Dead, like, it's Egypt, mummies, death, yeah, they got a lot of fun stuff. So, like, there's a bunch of deities that you can call on. You got ones that are just on the mummification process. Like, there's so much. So I'm so stoked for writing these, but also it's so much research to do. They're like, I'm excited but terrified all at the same time. Because I also want to have, like, invocations and, like, invitation things. Because I don't really like to call it an invocation, but, like, that's the closest, like, common term. But I don't use that. I usually just, like, I don't know. I just call them like you would call a person. Just be like, hey, Odin, do you want to come chit chat for a bit? Cool, thanks. Like, but also the Norse have a very different vibe than the other pantheons. So, like, anyways, moral of the story, I'm writing out, like, a prayer thing, basically, to call to the deities and, like, information, like, a little bit of mythos context. Like, I have a lot of stuff planned for that. Again, this book is such a big project. So, like, we're getting there. It's a slow journey. But then I'm including a conclusion because we need to conclude the journey of the book. Again, it's a pet peeve of mine. Why we don't have conclusions at the end of books, I don't know. And then I also have my random notes is what I currently have it labeled as. But that is where I've got, like, my appendix of witchery. Because, like, I want it as a quick reference of if you're like, I need stones. Easy, quick reference, stones for funeral-y stuff. And flowers and herbs, like random quick things, list of the deities, like a quick heading, list of names. And, like, just little contexty stuffs that you find at the end of books. I want to have that in there as well. And then I think I'm probably going to put this at the beginning, but I also feel like at the end too, I haven't decided, of, like, the ritual lists and, like, quick brief what they're for, like, one sentence or less of, like, when in the death journey this is going to need to happen, and then, like, briefly what is it. Most of the time the title kind of explains it, like, witchcraft funeral rite. Probably not great for those people who are in the broom closet. You know? And, like, headstone dedication. I feel like it's pretty explanatory. But, you know, like, a brief of what it is, and then also what level it is, because I've mentioned this, but my book is going to have varying levels of witchery that you want to do. My lower level is, like, pretty minimal, like, ingredients, energy, like, physically having to do stuff, and, like, gathering tools and, like, a lot of ingredients. Like, it's very heavily mind-based, to be honest, because most of the time, whether you have, like, money is an issue, or you have, like, physical limitations, energetic limitations, like, if you just are chronically exhausted and you're just, like, mentally like, I got very little to work with, that's your option, because it's, like, that's not a lot of requirement from you. It's mostly just use your mind however you can. And then kind of a middle grade of a little bit, but not, like, too much. That one kind of varies on where it is in the book. And then the third one is, like, heavy witchcraft. When you're going through a death, you need to rely on the witchcraft to get through it. That's what level 3 is. Honestly, I don't know that I would ever do this again, because it is so much work to come up with, like, various ways to do the exact same thing. Like, it is exhausting. And sometimes I've gotten to the point where it's, like, different things you could do, so you could do all of them, or pick and choose. Because, like, it's hard to write the same thing 3 times, 3 different ways. So, like, I've gotten a little more creative with it. But sometimes, like, it depends where you're at in the book. Because sometimes, like, it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so, like, it's just a journey, to say the least. Currently, right now, I just finished up, I think it was chapter 24. Actually, let's look. Because this is my master sheet of my keeping track of my existence. So I have, yeah, chapter 24, Contemplation on Mortality. I just finished that up today. And my word count is currently at 49,447 words. To give you context, that is about the same size as my first book, for those of you who've been around for a while. 9 years ago, around this time was when I was getting that book. So, about that size. The little pamphlet-y books, that's about 50,000 words. So, this book is around that size right now, and it honestly, like how it's laid out would probably be more pages, because rituals take up typically more page space than a novel, because you got a lot of bulking of stuff to do. You know, you got like lists and stuff, they just take up more room instead of this way, they go this way, you know, of a page. But this is also just draft one. Draft one, I never really worry about what my word count is. Like, initially I had the hopes of like, oh, well, I'll just keep it 1,000 words each, and then that hasn't happened, because some of these are like 400, 600 words, but like, others are into the thousands. It just kind of varies, and some of these I will have to go back and like add in, but like, if I'm hitting a wall when trying to write a bunch of rituals, like, because most of these I have to write like 9 rituals for a chapter, and trying to come up with like 9 variations of things to do. So it's like, you know what? We're just gonna take a break and we're just gonna write down a vague idea and like come back and see if I want to still do that when I'm editing, because I don't want it to start to get like too monotonous. So I've just started putting in notes at this point of like, I don't know, something like this. And then I've, like, some of them I'm like still contemplating. Like, there's some on like the chapter for little deaths that I'm like, I don't know, should I add those? Maybe, we'll see. So it's something that's just, it's continuing to be an evolution of what is this book gonna become, but I'm very stoked. It's so close to being done, and yet so far, but like, it's getting there. I figured I would check in now that I've definitely crossed the halfway point, and then here, probably early June, I will have draft 1 done, and I'll do a little update about that. But I'm only planning on writing maybe 1 witchcraft book a year for this reason, because this is exhausting. Like, it is so much work. Like, I thought fiction was hard, and then you write nonfiction and you're like, I regret ever thinking that was difficult. Good Lord. Because you can just make it up. That's how fiction works. You just make up a story. But like, nonfiction, you gotta research stuff. You gotta research a lot. And to be fair, this is a very, like, very niche kind of topic. So there's like a lot of stuff that you cannot find a lot of information on. And so it's like not the most helpful, because like, it's not a topic most people talk about. Like, trying to find a lot of information on like aquamation, there's not. Like, I don't know what they actually do with the leftovers. Are you allowed to take them? Are you allowed to request that they be like donated to like even the local cemetery or a garden? Or can you get like your person in like a couple jugs? Probably not. Probably you're going down the drain as if you were going to in a traditional burial. Because if you don't know, that's what happens. In the traditional burial, when you get embalmed, your innards get, all of the liquid of you gets removed, and you get replaced with a bunch of toxic chemicals. Because like, formaldehyde is wicked. Plus, I know there's others, but that's like the main one. And it's a journey, but yeah, you go down the drain. All of the inner parts kind of go down the drain. And so aquamation, you just got a little bit more ingredient, but it's still going down the drain probably. Like, I don't know how to politely ask that of the funeral home around here, because I think there's only one in the state of Utah that has it, because it's a very expensive machine and it's probably not that popular. But like, I kind of want to ask them to be like, listen, in like the most non-judgmental way, I'm just like morbidly curious, do you just like put them down the drain? Can you get that back? Would my family take me to like a cemetery or like to like a tree? I don't know. I don't know that like the future kids or nieces in the future could handle that, to be like, ah, yes, here's my aunt in a bucket. Whoa, I don't know if they could handle that. Like, I feel like that might be pushing the comfort zone of the non-morbidly curious. And like, trying to find out anything on terramation is also really difficult, human composting. And that one is really difficult too, because like there's, again, not a lot of information, and it's only legal in a few places, much like Aquamation. So it's just like, it's a topic where it's really hard to find a lot of stuff, but I'm really excited for this project, and I think it will be very helpful whether you need it now or in the future. Because again, I'm trying to make this a practical guide so that even if it's like you just need a guide through a death regardless, like there's enough stuff in there for you. So anyways, I'm very excited on this book. I'm ready to see it in publication, and I hope that it's going to be quite helpful. I think it will be. I've been trying to cover every base I can think of for the topic. Like we've got pet deaths, I've got like, there's a lot in there. There's quite a bit. So anyways, I would love to hear your like hopes and dreams for this book. Are you excited for it like I am? I hope you are. Is there something that you've wanted when you've gone through a death or when you're planning a death or whatever that you haven't found in a witchy book for that topic? I'm curious, or just in general, like what things would you want to make sure are covered, because I want to make sure that I cover all my bases. So if there's something I'm forgetting, I would love to know. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen if you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content. It is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.